The name drop, man. The name drop. The Armored Dragon King Petagoose is finally here. We finally get to see him in animated format, and I'm super hyped for this. I'm excited for this character to see them in the show, and not to say they're showing up anytime soon. I'm not saying they're going to show up next episode, but when they do show up, I'm really excited for it. But yes, episode 7 of season 3 of Mushoku Tensei, really solid episode. Once again, the team doing a fantastic job of adapting this. Only 2 chapters again. Eventually they're going to have to start skipping a lot of stuff because I don't know how they're doing this. Only 2 chapters per episode. Eventually something's going to break. So I'm waiting for the moment that they suddenly skip an entire volume or something like that. But if they can keep to this, I'm extremely happy about this. But I think the only thing I'm really kind of upset about, because I think they pretty much cover everything in these 2 chapters. There's going to be some little extra bits that we're going to get into in a minute here. For those that don't know, this is my impression video where I do skip content as well. I go through scene by scene, give my thoughts on it, as well as kind of give you some added value that's from the novel. So if you're looking for skip content, this is the place to be. But the only thing I was a little bit disappointed in was Linia and Pursena's fight. That wasn't very impressive, unfortunately. Like, the beginning of it's great. Like, they set it up really good. I love, Bruce over there bringing out the bell and everything like that. And, them, cussing at each other and insulting each other. And then eventually going to exchange blows. But after that, it's just Ruisa's face. And then at some point, they show, a far-off shot. And it's already devolved at that point. And it's that wasn't very impressive. I wish I could have seen, some good moments. Now, that is true to the actual novel. The novel, the entire time, in that segment, he's narrating it. He's narrating the entire thing like he's some sort of guy off the side of the ring, going, oh man, they exchange blow. No, now they're going to bite. And oh, no, she has fangs too, so she's got to bite too. And eventually it's this pointing out of Rudius, why are you acting this way? They're taking this serious. So why are you doing this? Why are you making a joke of this? And yeah, it kind of explains the fact that it starts out with insults. It goes into exchanging massive blows. And then at some point it just devolves into now they're just on the ground grappling. And now it's just 2 kids on a playground just biting and gnawing at each other. So there's a joke there, and I get the joke, but I wanted to see a couple really good shots before then. I want to get some good fighting before it starts to devolve, or even just show some good shots of them devolving. You can have some really good shots in there of close in of them biting and gnawing on each other or something like that. The most of it was just Rui's face. Most of the entire thing was just Rui's face, and it's that's not what I imagined. Unfortunately, that's not what I imagined. I imagined what Ruiz was imagining. And that sort of adds a little added bonus to it. And I guess that's sort of what they're trying to do there by keeping on him. But that aside, that's my only real beef. The rest of the episode is really, really good. And again, doing a great job of adapting this and making sure that we cover really all the important stuff. But let's just get into the episode proper. Opening up the episode with just the graduation of Linia and Pursena. Now, the novel itself does give some big updates around everybody else. Because yes, surprising, I know, Ruiz is still going to school. Despite us not seeing it, which is a good thing, we don't have to sit there and watch him in class every single day. He is going to school and everything. But yes, they give us an update. Winter began earnest and Ruiz had turned 18, so there's an update on his actual age here. His research was coming along steadily, and he managed to complete his requirements for his year in university. So yes, despite the fact that he's been traveling off to the Beggar Continent, he has been studying, he has done all of his requirements in order to graduate, or at least, progress a year. He'd be a 4th year soon, and everything was going well. Annalise, however, was going to be repeating a year. Yes, despite the fact that she went off there, she's going to have to repeat. She was a general student, and her 6 months absent left her hopelessly behind. It didn't seem to bother her, though, but Ruiz felt guilty as she was helping out his family. Sylvie didn't meet her attendance quota, but her grades were excellent, and her role as Ariel's bodyguard, she was granted special permissions to move forward. It's always about somebody that you know, right? At home, things were good. Lucy was growing fast, eating baby food instead of nursing. She even spoke her first words, Woody. Woody. It made sense, as no one called him Papa around the house. She called Sylvie Mama, but that was because she deliberately taught her the word. Sylvie's there going, Mama, Mama, say Mama. He figured he'd have to do the same thing, but there was no rushing things. Eventually, he'd teach her to call him Father Dearest. Still, it was crazy that she was talking already. They must have a genius on their hands. Yes, he knew it was normal for kids to start this early, but it was still amazing to hear your kids start talking. He still knew there was downsides to her getting older, saying things like, don't wash my underwear with dads. No, he was actually looking forward to that one for some reason. With her stopping nursing, Sylvie's chest returned to normal size. He missed out on enjoying that sweet, excellent treat. Yes, he didn't mind her normal size, but he felt as if the timer on the bonus stage had ran out. They, of course, ended their contract with Suzanne, as she wasn't needed anymore as a wet nurse, though he planned on staying in touch with her. She took good care of Lucy, and she helped him a lot back in the day. He wanted to repay her as much as he could. Maybe look out for her kids when they enrolled at the university. He'd probably graduate before then, but maybe he could ask Nora to look after them. Nora and Aisha were in good spirits lately. They'd visit Lucy and cooing about how cute she was. She was probably like a little sister to them. He even overheard them discussing not fighting in front of Lucy. Aww. He also had some other plans worked out as well. He figured they'd wanted her to look up to them. It was as if they were squabbling like they used to. Some kids try to act grown up whenever they have someone younger in the house. A nice, unexpected side effect to Lucy's arrival. I think that is sort of a positive thing there, definitely. Roxy's first year as a faculty member was going smoothly as well. He noticed general students looking at her in awe recently. They must have started to understand her greatness, at least partially. His intention was to forcibly re-educate anyone who dared mock her, but kids in her classes were apparently listening respectively. When it comes to Zenith, her routine was same as always. When Norm was around, they ate together. She'd pull weeds with Aisha. She'd sometimes squeeze Lucy's finger gently and smile at her. That was the one big change after the party. Zenith started smiling on a regular basis. Her smiles were small and subtle, but everyone recognized them for what they were. While not speaking and expressions limited, he wanted to believe she was making progress. Yeah, so that's kind of a little bit important note there to have, in wake of what happens at the end of, again, this episode. And the fact that Nanahoshi's like, hey, this guy's been around for a long time. He might know what's going on with her. He might be able to provide something for her. He might not have a cure, but he might know something. But yes, that's when we jump over to the graduation itself. But yes, Linia and Pursena get up there. A little bit of context to the school itself, which I think is kind of interesting to kind of note how big this school is and just how difficult it is to actually graduate here. At this ceremony, the 7th years will be receiving their diplomas on a big stage. Of over 10,000 students, about 500 would be graduating. That seemed oddly low, as this class probably started with 2,000 people. Most of them would have dropped out over the years. While easy to enroll, it wasn't simple to graduate. In particular, advanced tier spells and combined magic were challenging to master. Those with smaller mana capacities would find it impossible. Some may even have found beginner spells to be enough for them. Then there was personal and financial reasons to drop out. Yeah, it's not cheap. It's not extremely cheap for some people here. But yes, Linia and Pursena are actually called up on the stage, and they're actually presented as being the representative of the graduating class. Now, this is kind of surprising, obviously, for a lot of people here. Despite them running wild for a while, they ended up achieving an impressive academic record. Of course, Rudius recognized them as the princesses of the Dolio tribe. The university seemed to prefer bestowing the honor to students of noble birth, even if a commoner had comparable records. It was their way of currying favor with powerful people. He assumed things would be different if a commoner were bested by far, but it was hard to say. Roxy was an excellent student in her day, but she wasn't given the honor. She was Saint tier at the time, yet they still handed the role to someone else. While the university accepted anyone, the people running it were still humans who had their biases. Yeah, so for something like a case of Roxy herself, her being a demon, they're not going to give that to her, especially if they possibly have somebody of noble blood that's there. And it seems like that's the case right here. Linia and Pursena, kind of being important people, princesses, it seems like they're trying to curry favor here. I think even early on when they were talking about Linia and Pursena coming here, there was an element of them acknowledging the fact that, this might help with, different ties and whatnot to the beast folk. But yeah, as they go up there, Rudius in his mind's thinking back of man, I remember back in the day when he would, spot them on a pile of bodies and them talk about how everybody here is super weak and everything like that. It's these two have definitely changed over the years. It was a beautiful little ceremony, and I kind of like how they kind of played out this whole entire thing here. But yeah, after the ceremony, they dropped by Nanahoshi's laboratory, and for some reason in the anime, they had Zenoba and Cliff there, but they're not actually there. The entire ordeal here, even the duel, the two of them are not here. It's just Rudius and Nanahoshi. They even have a later end part when, Linia and Pursena go to leave, they ask Rudius and Nanahoshi to say goodbye to Zenoba and Cliff. So they're never there. They never even say goodbye to them. They just leave. But yes, in the anime, Rudius shows up here and very quickly notices that Nanahoshi's coughing again. He noticed that she was wrapped up in something like a thick bathrobe, coughing and wheezing. For the last year, she kept getting sick on a regular basis, usually involving hacking, coughing, or sudden fever. He cleared them up with intoxication spells, but it would come back after too long. And yeah, this sort of what Rudius right here really kind of quickly picks up on is girl, your living habits are bad. Yes, you're very set on the idea that you really want to get home, but that's kind of affecting your health. And that was something that he acknowledged the first time that he met Nanahoshi. This is a shut-in girl. She is got junk food everywhere, and she's shut up in this little room, and she never leaves here. This isn't a healthy environment for anybody. And so right here, he's assuming that potentially it might not be a sickness or something like that. It might just be the fact that she's not living well here, that she needs to improve her living conditions here. Like, I can keep detoxification on you, but I think you need to change your lifestyle. And it sort of has the anime instead have Cliff kind of come in there with that advice, but still the same thing here. But yeah, there's a lot of importance here given to the fact that she's getting closer and closer, and she doesn't want to kind of back off now. He acknowledged that yes, their research is coming along nicely. She completed the second phase of their plans months ago, successfully summoning a cat for the bottle that they got in phase 1. Currently in phase 3, they were summoning living things like an animal or plant. It was a big, exciting step forward. Which, yes, they got into this quite a bit when they were first talking about the phases. The idea here was to like, okay, we summon this thing, so now it's like be more specific with the thing. Okay, now let's look into actual living things. Like, okay, we can summon an object, but what's the potential of it even surviving if it was an actual living thing? So that's where they're bringing in actual living things now. And then, as they state with the very end of this episode, now it's to go on to more specific things. Go into a specific living object. I mean, yeah, technically she was going for a cabbage. So she was actually trying to go for something specific, but obviously, there's going to be a hang up there, and that's why she decided that she wants to go up to see Pedagoose. There was an interesting thing to note here in the fact that, yeah, they were talking about potentially going out and having a, goodbye party for Linia and Pursena. Acknowledge the fact they're probably going to go back to the Beast Folk village. And Rudeus does, invite Nanahoshi for this particular occasion, which she does agree to it, which I think says a lot for Nanahoshi. She's like a typical person that wouldn't want to be involved with other people. She was very secluded in, her research and whatnot. Now, I think with Rudeus sort of bringing her out and having her meet other people, it does seem like she's opening up quite a bit. Though the both of them do have choice words about their doubting Linia and Pursena can turn out to be princesses of this actual tribe, take over the tribe itself. Rudeus' worry about the future of the Duldia tribe, to be honest. Hopefully they had enough competent people to keep things running if their leader was a moron. And that's when a knock comes at the door. Linia and Pursena shows up. Yeah, it's a lot right here as Rudeus kind of in his own mind assuming that Linia and Pursena is there to just duel him once again. Oh yeah, they're probably still hung up with the fact that I beat them before. Maybe they want to, get their payback, win the duel just before they leave or something like that. So the entire time he's assuming, yeah, they probably want to beat me up. Even later on, when they do take him out to somewhere to duel, as within the anime, they go to the same locations. Like this little spot where like a little forest nearby. It's the same exact spot that Zenoba and him ambushed them in order to get back at them for, breaking the Roxy figurine. Now, I will say, the anime didn't really kind of explain this too well, but there is a specific reason why Linia and Pursena are having this duel. It kind of gives you a sense in the anime that it's more of like, which one's us going to take over and which one of us is going to go be, work as a merchant or something like that. The place that Rudeus stayed at when he was down there was the Duldia village, but he thought he heard something about the Aduldia village too. He wondered if they had a second leader running that place. So the assumption here is like, okay, well, I assume that Pursena Aduldia would go to the Aduldia village and she would run that place, and Linia Duldia would run the Duldia village. They say they were planning on going back there together, but they reconsidered, acknowledging the fact that it's a big world out there. There was more to life than bossing around people. They both got sisters back at home, and only one of them needs to go back to teach them the stuff that they learned there. Whichever one of them was stronger gets to go back and be the boss. The other gets to live free the way they want. Again, the anime kind of covers that, but there's a little bit more context here. They said they're going to end up dueling anyways when they get back home. And if they fought in the Great Forest, the loser would end up with a boring life. They would make them marry the best warrior of the village, making it better to sell it now and then go their separate ways. No hard feelings either way. So the idea here is that yes, we're going to duel either here or there. And the problem is that if we duel there, the loser's just going to get stuck with some brute and just stay in the village bored. Like, there's no glory to the one that loses in the Great Forest. But the idea here is that two of them are going to fight each other for supremacy to run the Duldia tribe. Not necessarily Pursena going off to the Duldia tribe. And yes, it's better off that they have the loser separate here, and yeah, go explore the world, become an adventurer, become a merchant, whatever. Reese thought it started to make sense now. They both want to be number one. But if they fell short, they'd rather live somewhere else entirely. Maybe they could make it to the top somewhere else. It had holes in the plan. He was dying to ask some basic questions, like if they could make this decision themselves without the other folks involved. Like, are you allowed to decide this without the tribe? Your princesses, are you allowed to decide this? At the end of the day, he decided it wasn't his place. They clearly had thought this through, and he can understand their desire to control their own destinies. Which, yes, that kind of plays out as we see them fight. Which, again, like I said before, I wasn't a big fan of this whole segment. Again, I think it does well to emphasize, like, the fact that Rudeus himself is narrating it. That for the anime fans, just like with the novel series, you're just hearing what he's portraying it as. Which does get to a butt of a joke later on, the idea that he's making it out to be some epic battle. Like, oh my gosh, they're exchanging blows left and right, and then suddenly it cuts away and they're devolving. But again, there's a devolving sequence here. There's an exciting part at the beginning that slowly devolves into Now they're just grappling on the ground. Now, there was a brief segment where Nanahoshi did ask questions during the fight. Ruiz is going off with his narration. He's going nuts with it and everything like that. And at some point, Nanahoshi speaks up, asking, why aren't they using magic? And Ruiz replies, that's because right at the beginning, Pursena locked in. Pursena, from the very beginning, she locked in. Well, Linia called her fat. I love that whole segment, by the way. It's like this whole, like, stupid, like, juvenile, like, insults flinging back and forth, talking about how, like, they, wet themselves and how they blame it on the other person. It was actually them or something like that. It's like this, like, this is the sad thing about this entire exchange here, is the fact that Linia and Pursena are, like, inseparable. They're always inseparable. Yeah, they're constantly bickering. They're constantly fighting. And there is an element of, like, supremacy between the two of them. Like, they want to beat the other person so they can prove they're stronger. They're the pack leader. They're the strongest. That's that desire they constantly have. And they're constantly, having competition. So right here is a sad moment where they're trying to make each other mad. And they're expressing, like, everything they kept bottled up for the sake of angering each other. But it's like this stupid, like, petty fighting until eventually, out of nowhere, Linia's like, you're fat. Pursena just gets pissed off and just rushes in there. So yeah, that was Ruiz's response to Nanahoshi questioning, why don't they use magic? They came here to learn magic, and magic would probably help give them advantage, right? And then Ruiz is like, no, Pursena closed the gap. It was turned into a melee brawl from the beginning. Thus, they don't have any chance to really get incantations off. They're just constantly hitting each other. Yeah, Sylvie or Rudius, they can do it because they have silent casting. They can basically just fire something off immediately. They can't do that. Linia and Pursena cannot do that. But yeah, I will say, those first little cuts there, though, are really good. And I do like the little bit at the very end where they suddenly just start just chewing on each other's legs. Just chewing at each other's leg. And Nanahoshi's like, they're taking this very seriously. Why are you making a joke out of this? Yeah, sorry. I probably shouldn't have that. But yeah, at the end of it, Pursena stands victorious. I love that shot, by the way. Just like that upshot of her just standing victorious, just all beaten and bruised and everything like that. It looked really, really good. But yeah, I wasn't really expecting this when I was reading it. I kind of had the expectation it was going to be Linia. I just had a feeling like Linia was going to be a more, because she's always been a more predominant character. She feels like a more kind of in the front character because she's more loud. She's much more loud. I mean, technically, Pursena has typically gotten food in her mouth, so she's always got food in her mouth. How can she lead anybody? But yeah, Linia, I kind of expected to be in the winner, but still, having Pursena kind of stand there and take the spot was really great. But I do appreciate the kind of emphasis here on the fact that Pursena walking up to Rudius is like, no, don't heal me. Like, he could easily get rid of all these wounds and no scars left behind, but she's like, no, I got it, I'm fine. Leave them. I need these as marks. These are like my scars of pride or whatever. And even for Linia later on, she's like, literally, like, she got blood come out of her mouth. He assumes it's probably just, a cut or whatever. But it's like, damn, this girl's not looking good. I'm assuming you don't want heals either. No one heals. I don't like the idea of showing off wounds from being defeated, but still, maybe I'll be able to brag about them later. I guess the idea there is that Pursena is going to go off and be the tribe leader of the, beast folk, and I can say I got these from her. The tribe leader. But either way, again, really tragic right here in the fact that these two were so bonded, and yet right here it's immediately that separation. They had decided before they even came here, we're going to duel, and whoever wins is going to go back home. Like, they've already decided. They've already got things planned, even though they failed miserably at planning it. As we get later on, the fact that he finds out from this, whispers that these two were fighting in the back of this carriage because they both chose the same carriage to leave the town because they're both going the same direction, basically. There's not really many directions to go up here. Like, you're up in the north. If they want to go south or at least west, they're going to go the same direction. There's a possibility of going east, but, like, what's over there? There's, like, not really much over there. Again, when we got into the whole thing with Julie, what was the emphasis there? There's not much work up here. A lot of people, especially up in the north, are selling off their kids in order to get out of debt or just to be able to put food on the table, or choosing to go into slavery for the sake of being able to put food in your own stomach. Like, you selling yourself in order to hopefully be working for somebody that will at least feed you. There's not much up here. So they're most likely going to be going west. So they're going in the same direction. They're going south, southwest, or whatever. But anyways, again, I will note here, it's kind of surprising that you have this whole moment where Nanahoshi goes over to throw a jacket over Pursena. Like, she chooses to go with Pursena back to the dorm, like, get her some help, get her some aid, at least get some bandaging on this stuff. And Nanahoshi going on her way to support Pursena. Which, again, is to show, like, how much Nanahoshi over, like, this period of time has changed a lot. she's definitely come out of that shell. But yeah, Rui's staying behind for Linia. And Linia kind of explaining her situation, that she's going to go off and become a great merchant. She's going to make lots of money, right? Rui's like, I don't think that's going to happen. Ruiz thought despite her losing the most important duel of her life, Linia didn't seem too depressed. Maybe she was happy to be freed of her responsibility to the tribe, at least for now. Or maybe she was just putting on a brave face. I mean, it's a good question there. Like, is there potentially a chance here that maybe she gave up the fight? Does she not want to have that role? Seemed like there's all signs that they went all out, that neither one of them really kind of held back. Either way, it looked like she accepted the one chapter of her life had come to an end. In the end, Linia and Pursena didn't say their farewells to each other, just went back to their dorms at separate times, grabbed their stuff, bandaged their wounds, and left the campus. Rui's seen Linia off, and Nanahoshi for Pursena. Neither of them were particularly chatty. They only asked them to say goodbye to Zenoba and Cliff for them, but that was about it. Again, Zenoba and Cliff, unfortunately right here, didn't really get any direct goodbyes. Though it was kind of cute to have that little moment where they were apologizing to Zenoba for breaking the figurine. No, Master approved that. He's okay with it. As long as Master's okay, I'm good. He pardoned you. Yeah, that's when we cut over to Phase 4. Phase 4 of the summoning process. Several days later, Ruiz went back to work with Nanahoshi. With several magic circles spread before him, at a glance they looked printed on a stone slab. The slab was actually hundreds of oversized sheets of paper stacked, each with portions of an overall design, all kept in a wooden frame, keeping it snugly in place. Even the frame had magic circles carved on its surface. Yeah, so the reminder here, back when we had Nanahoshi had her breakdown, her mental breakdown, because she was trying all these methods of doing summoning and it kept breaking. There was something in the process and it kept breaking. And eventually, again, she has a meltdown, and then Zenoba and Cliff come in the picture, and they eventually come up with the idea of actually making layers to it. So right here, they have hundreds of sheets of papers of different diagrams all stacked on top of each other. This is literally like a tower of different floors of different structures. That's crazy. And it has to be kind of kept together so it doesn't mess up here. So they're literally sandwiching it. I like how the anime actually shows it. It's sandwiched inside this little machine, this little container. It was no exaggeration to call it a full-fledged magic implement. Yeah, technically, again, to the whole doll they have from Ruiz's house. The doll they found there, they're currently dismantling. That eventually opens up the door to, again, the idea of the glove and whatnot that Zenoba's doing. They're trying to recreate that. And again, that has the layers that they got the idea from. It had taken a significant time to create. While Ruiz helped out as much as he could, it was mostly done by Nanahoshi. Nanahoshi was crouching across from him looking down. Cliff and Zenoba were flanking her from either side. They were helping out, so Ruiz asked if they could be present during these major breakthroughs. Nanahoshi disliked the idea, but gave in when he argued that they earned the right. Of course, their presence wasn't really a reward. He wanted them present in case it fails. And Nanahoshi started thrashing around again. Because again, when she had that breakdown, she was literally harming herself. She was literally thrashing around and harming herself. It was pretty effective to have someone of a different gender there to comfort you. Not a universal rule, but it was true in his experience at least. I think you can really draw some inappropriate thoughts from that, Rudius. A visit to a nice tavern and shower her with attention, that sort of thing. They weren't host club material, but it's the thought that counts. Rudius was confident with this one, though. Cliff had given the sketches a stamp of approval, and Zenoba's experience with the prosthesis made him good at detail work. Yeah, and again, back when they had that issue with Nanahoshi's initial plans, Cliff had so much knowledge around these, magic circles at the time that he was able to look at all of what she was working on and going, hey, maybe you should do this here. And she's like, oh yeah, that makes sense. The two of them hit it off really quickly because of his knowledge in these circles. But that's when we get into the process of actually doing the summoning. When Maurice pushed a little mana into it, he felt like it sucked more and more out of him. It was no surprise that this was greedy for power. He wasn't sure anyone but him could satisfy it. Sylphie said a single magic circle was like casting an advanced spell. This was composed of over 100 circles. Cliff did help to make it more efficient, but it still was eating at least 20 times more mana than a single circle. Jeez. I mean, that's actually more credit to Cliff right there, because again, they're talking about the idea of this being the equivalent of 100 of these circles, and Cliff was able to make it feel like only 20. So he basically cut it down to maybe a fifth. Mana pulsed into the stack like blood pumping from the heart. Soon it began to emit a glow. Nothing felt off. The mana was flowing smoothly. Slowly, the glowing Intricate circles changed color, yellow, orange, blue, white. The pattern was distinctive and familiar. He's seen flashes of light like that before. The displacement incident. Crap, he wondered if he should stop. It might teleport them all to the middle of nowhere. What if it was bigger in scale? Sylphie and Norn were here on campus, weren't they? Wait, what if it took the entire city and Lucy along with it? On the other hand, he didn't feel anything too dramatic was about to happen. The circles they designed weren't capable of producing any such effects anyhow. They'd done their homework here. He was positive they hadn't screwed up that badly. It just wasn't possible. Everything was going to be fine. The light grew stronger, then collapsed into a single point. Then he heard a thunk. His mana abruptly stopped flowing, and the glow disappeared. There was something green sitting at the center of the circle. It was a watermelon. Yeah, I like this build-up right here, and the anime kind of portrays it really well there. It just doesn't have as much in his head to kind of narrate what's happening there. But yeah, there's like a concern here of like, yeah, what if this does go crazy? And again, this is something that they've been talking about from like the very beginning here. That what if something happens again where you get a displacement incident? A lot of what Ruiz is doing here and helping Nanahoshi is to actually, again, investigate the displacement incident. He's trying to figure out what exactly happened there. And this is a good thing to kind of get that information. So yeah, there's that thought process in his head that of like, what if we do create that again? That, yeah, not even just in this room. Again, like with the displacement incident, an entire region, this city, my daughter might get displaced somewhere. Is somebody with her? No, wait. No, we checked this out. We did all of our checks. We're doing this properly. We have all these safeguards. We're actually thinking this through. There is a process that we're going through here. We're being very careful about this process. Nanahoshi is being very specific about this. Cliff is looking it over. Everything. We're doing checks and balances on this whole thing. Nothing like that should happen. But yeah, we get a watermelon. And it sucks too because of like this thought process of like, but is it from another world? It's a watermelon, but could there be this particular watermelon somewhere here? Like, shouldn't we have summoned something that's a little bit more like specific, like something that, you know, requires selective breeding or whatever? Rita says, I know it's a little bit late, but shouldn't we have summoned something like a Yubari melon instead? They had to selectively breed those things, so they definitely wouldn't exist in this world. Nanahoshi responds, tell me something, Rudius. Could you actually tell the difference between a normal melon and a specially bred one? He's like, true. True. And again, there's that whole concern there, like, what if there's a chance that they could have made that melon here? What if there's a chance that that melon is just naturally here, even though in our other world it's selectively bred? But yeah, either way, in the end, she was trying to technically go for a cabbage, and we end up with a watermelon, so it's not like she could have selectively chosen something anyways. It's just another step in this whole process. It's another step in the whole process. She just specifically wanted something that was alive. Something like a plant, not a object like a plastic bottle or something. But yeah, that leads them to having their celebration. Everybody getting together to have a massive celebration. Eventually, Roxy showing up drunk, requiring a lap to sit in. Before, yes, attention's turned to Norn. Norn looks a little uncomfortable, and yes, she requests that if she can join the student council, that she's apparently for a while now been doing work for the student council. It's just now she's finally like, hey, I want permission. Can I do this? I like that Ruiz is like, you know, I don't want to just... yeah, if she wants it, sure, go ahead. Like, I don't want to stop her from doing things, but he wants to also instill upon her the responsibility, acknowledging, can you actually pull this off? Taking this whole choice here a little bit seriously here. He's like, in the end, you don't need my permission, but I'm glad you asked, but yeah, are you going to be able to handle it? Well, amongst everything else. Yeah, and they even acknowledge the fact that Norn still has bad grades. Like, she's still not the smartest girl in the world. And yes, she has all these other things that she wants to do. She's asking Rudius to train her in swordsmanship. You know, is she going to be able to do this responsibility on top of all these other things? But yeah, it's interesting to note here that Ariel herself has taken note of Norn's natural charisma. Ariel, again, being this princess with the ability to sort of kind of, you know, capture people with her voice. This is a lady that she walks in her room, she grabs everybody. Even she is acknowledging how much Norn sort of has people gravitating towards her. That she is somebody that a lot of people are drawn to. Despite Rudius, for a lot of people, not really having too favorable of a reputation. But I like how it kind of, you know, transitions into really kind of acknowledging... I mean, in the anime, it's very much so emphasizing the element of people supporting you, and in turn wanting to support them with whatever they do. Seeing people, you know, over time grow and, you know, seek out new responsibilities, and that desire for you to want to support them. Norn right now is trying to grow up and be responsible. I need to be there to sort of comfort her. You know, be there with the pom-poms. Break out the pom-poms and support her. But yeah, he agrees to this, and Nanahoshi walks up, still coughing. Still coughing. Girl's constantly getting sick. detox her again before, she brings up the fact that they've, finished this phase and that she's wanting to, get some more information about this whole process. And so she's going to go to the authority of summoning. And she's mentioned this before previously, in the fact that when she was traveling around, she eventually met somebody that was like the foremost authority on summoning magic. Now, Ruiz right here immediately goes to, wait, it's not Orsted, is it? She's like, no, it isn't. He can use summoning magic as well, but this is someone else entirely. Ruiz was relieved by that. He figured Orsted could use summoning magic. Was there anything this guy couldn't do? Though Ruiz did remember, the man god said that he was capable of using every known technique in the world. Still, there was presumably a difference between being capable of using a spell and being an expert on the entirety of that field of magic. To invent new things, you needed a different set of skills. And that makes sense. This idea, this Orsted guy that was traveling with Nanahoshi, he might be able to, do the summoning spell itself. Summon a watermelon if he wanted to. He potentially could do that. But to be able to teach that to somebody else, or to have a knowledge about how it, fully functions and potentially could manipulate it in some way, that's an entirely different thing there. To be able to take apart something and really study it versus just knowing how to activate it. But she talks about the fact that, she got this whole reward to give him. So she's like, hey, why don't you come with me? Why don't you just come with me? I love how everybody starts kind of swarming and going, can I go too? Can I go too? Can I go too? Can I go too? Then I was just like, yeah, I guess. It's kind of annoying. Whatever, sure, you can all come. I don't care. Anybody else want to come? Hey, bartender, you want to come too? But she says, I know you want to learn a different kind of summoning magic, which again, he wants to more look into the displacement incident. She says, I think you're better off learning from someone like him directly. Ruiz thought, true. He didn't want to learn to summon things from another world. It may be convenient at times. He wouldn't mind summoning a baby bottle or a stroller for his kid. But that stuff is more like a luxury than a necessity. He was satisfied with his life as it was. He had some interest in learning some more convenient summoning spells, but he didn't imagine himself needing those very often either. So it was mostly a matter of curiosity. He was still interested in figuring out why the displacement incident had taken place. But again, he didn't feel a burning need to find those answers. So at this point, Ruiz is like, okay, sure. Out of curiosity, why not? But then there's like the sinker. Nanahoshi bring up the fact that yes, there's a potential this individual could help with his mother's memories as well. Ruiz reflectively leans forward. Norn draws in closer as well. I like that little added thing there. Norn's like, because again, Norn was like right there. Like when Nanahoshi came up, they were already talking about something. And asking if it was true, she says, I can't say for sure, but the man has been alive for a very long time. There's a good chance that he knows something useful. Ruiz thought to himself that Zenith was steadily improving, but it was hard to tell if she'd ever fully regain her memories. He didn't want to get his hopes high for a quick fix. Still, there was a chance this man could give them a name for her condition, or describe some similar cases. In combination with his knowledge from his previous life, it might point them towards some new possibilities. Again, like only just potentially just seeing, is it common? Is there a potential name for it? Thus, you can look into other people and other cultures to see if potentially they have a cure for something. While he hadn't learned much about this sort of thing from his old world, there was a chance that he recalls something useful. So he agrees, and then he asked about who this individual is. She has everybody coming close. Petagus, the Armored Dragon King. The name of the legendary hero, one of the 3 god slayers, the demon god. The man who guided humanity to victory in the Laplace War 400 years ago. The one up there in that floating castle. If you can recall back in like one of the earlier episodes of season 1. Yes, when he was with Edis and Ghislaine going through the city. That's when he first seen that castle up there. And they mentioned the fact of his history of this guy that's presumably up there. As you see with the end of this episode, seeing him up there with all of his servants around him. Excitement, dude. Massive hype for that. I'm extremely excited to see Petagus when he does come around, but that's the episode. Again, they covered this whole bit very, very well. Not too much to really kind of dig into here that was skipped, but again, they only covered 2 chapters, which is, again, at this point, it's getting scary. I mean, we have a lot of episodes for this core. It's 14 episodes, but they technically did open up with 2 episodes being given to Edis, which were skipped chapters from previous that they didn't adapt. So it wasn't necessarily like those 2 episodes is showing this entire season is a lot more longer than it typically is. So hopefully they can keep this. Hopefully they can keep this pacing, because I'm absolutely loving it. I'm loving how much care they're giving to these segment of the story being told, because as I and many people can contest to, it's going to be one of probably the biggest seasons of the entire series. It's going to be one of the biggest seasons of the entire series. I don't want to overhype it or anything like that, but it is literally some of the best content of this series overall. So exciting stuff. But yeah, again, Really good episode. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. As always, hope you found it informative. If you did, hit the like button down below. Again, in the description below, I have ways to support the channel, including a tips link. You can also become a member of the channel. I greatly, greatly appreciate all the support. Until next time, y'all take care.